Welcome, friends, to the Friends That Carry On podcast, where we dive deeper in our trips, unpack tips, and everything in between. The one who holds the tchotchke is your host. Get ready for your ears to go on a trip with your favorite group of friends.
Hello, and welcome to Friends That Carry On podcast. We are a group of friends that like to travel together. We try to travel around the world and book exciting trips, see festivals, interesting things, temples, whatever it is. We love to go out there and explore the world and encourage not only our friends to do it, but anybody else that has an itch to travel to do so. So we get together and try to share some of our experiences and tips and so forth. Tonight, it's just two of us on the podcast. It's me, Jim Scott, and
Tony Price.
So tonight we are going to be talking about some of the more unique, I don't know the best way to phrase this, accommodations that we've experienced in our travels. Obviously, everybody stayed in hotels and some Airbnbs and so forth. And for the most part, you're just looking for a nice bed, a clean bathroom, and a place to lay your head before you go out and explore whatever exciting location you're at. So in most cases, that's where a lot of the accommodations fall. Mm-hmm. But along the travels, you're going to come into some unique things. And I know I've written down a few, and Tony has. So we're going to go over a few of those places. Hopefully tell you about a couple of things to watch out for and how going to like festivals and so forth, you sort of look for different things at different times. So hopefully we can accommodate a few of those things. Before we get started, please go to our website, www.friendsthatcarryon.com, and sign up and give us your email. With doing that, we give you a lot of great travel information and tips, whether it's packing trip tips or itineraries, good experiences at different places around the world. There's a lot of information there for you to get. So please go and sign up to friendsthatcarryon.com. So anyhow, Tony, why don't you lead us off with an accommodation that you find unique or that you liked or whatever the reason was.
Yeah, so we were talking about this. So we're going to end up coming up with some kind of whatever you want to call it. Top, 5, 10 unique accommodations. But like you were saying earlier, there's so much goes into it when you're trying to lay out where you're staying and why you're staying there. Sometimes you just want to have lap of luxury, right? Sometimes you want the convenience, like you're talking about a festival, or sometimes you just want something that's just totally crazy. But one of the ones that really holds out kind of dear to my heart was the first place I stayed in Europe. And I think Terry Hall's mentioned it a few times on a couple other episodes, but the Hotel Abbazia in Venice, Italy, is an old abbey, converted into a hotel. And it's just so quirky that they have like a little bar where you knew monks used to hang out, and now they're serving Heinekens. It's like, and I say Heinekens because they used to just literally force Heinekens on you whenever you walk through the which is now kind of like a little lobby area. But
that's never a bad thing, right?
No, it's not a bad thing. It's just kind of funny that Heineken stands out. But it's great no matter which way you make it over to Venice, from the mainland. It's not too far from the train station area. I mean, where the buses drop off. It's a short walk, but you go down this small little alley, and there's this old abbey, and no room is like another. It's very unique. Again, my first night staying in Europe, and I have a big giant clawfoot tub, but there's no shower. They have like a little hand wand to shower off, but then you stick your head out the window and you look down on this gorgeous courtyard, and just everything about it was just fantastic. But it's not one of those things that I would say that is the best place in the world to stay, but it's just unique, right? And again, it's kind of our first place to stay, so it always holds a special place.
Right.
But again, and their little breakfast they do, oh my god! Again, I love European breakfast, especially like in Italy when you get all the charcuterie trays and stuff. And they just wonderful garden setting. Could you imagine an old abbey? It just has a fantastic little courtort garden.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was just awesome. And a great location. So
no, that's awesome. I hadn't thought about talking about this, but since you brought up the first time, the first place I went to was in Paris, and it was also Terry Hall, and he had used Vrbo, VRBO, which is one of our affiliates, and we got a little apartment just off a side street in Paris. And I know, and this is the first time I've been to Europe also, so you don't know what to expect and just have no idea. And plus, being an American, I was just used to going to hotels. This was 2007, so this is 12 years ago. The Airbnb, and in fact, I don't think Airbnb was around. It was very minuscule. Vrbo was the main way to do it then, and even that was very new. So, you kind of have your reservations of what to expect, and you know you're not going to have the normal hotel service and all that. But it's really neat going into basically going to somebody's home, and then the way they've got it decorated to their style and so forth. You're in the local area. You're not in a commercial or shopping area or so forth. So it was really neat. I mean, it was uniquely decorated. It was European, so your toiletries and your baths and all that are different, but that's the case no matter what. If you're in a hotel, as we came to find out later. It was just a unique experience. So we're in a little neighborhood. There's a little cafe, bar up the street that I remember drinking at till way too late, but able to stumble right down the block, and we were right there. So, and it had a little courtyard out back, and also, so great experience. And I think as we go through these, we're going to have a mix of hotels and Airbnbs and so forth. So it's just neat the different things you're going to come across. What's next on your list, Tony?
Again, quirky, right? Memphis, Tennessee, the Peabody. Just Shelly and I went down on a road trip, and we don't do too many of them anymore. I like to jump in a plane and get somewhere, but we did a drive, and for our listeners, it's say a good 14 hours of solid driving to get there. We made some stops, but if you're driving straight, it's about 14 hours. But we went to see historic Beale Street. I mean, it's one of those iconic streets, and just fun, food, drinking, music. I mean, just a great experience. And so we decided we were going to stay at the historic Peabody Hotel. And I mean, I guess a lot of people know, probably a lot of people don't know, they're infamous for the ducks. And it's a gorgeous, huge hotel. I think 1869 it was built.
Wow.
And it's right off of Beale Street, maybe 2 blocks. Maybe 3 blocks, but you're very close to everything. The FedEx Forum for games and historic Beale Street and all that kind of stuff. But so the tradition of the ducks, which is funny. So again, they have this huge fountain in the lobby, and these ducks are taking care of like nobody's business. They have these fabulous pins on the roof of the hotel, and then every morning they're marched out of their pen into the hotel or into the elevator, down the elevator through red roped carpet. And people line up. I mean, they have tour buses that drop people off to watch the ducks coming and going. And they waddle out and they jump into the fountain and they swim all day. And then in the evening they do the same thing after it. So I remember when we were down there, Shelly and I were sitting at the little bar and we were asking, where in the world did this whole thing with ducks come from? Right? So they say apparently back into the 1930s, the original manager, I think, of the hotel, and one of his buddies, and I didn't look it up what the guy's name was. I think, anyway, Chip Barwick, that was it. Chip Barwick. They said apparently they had a little bit too much whiskey, right? And they thought it would be funny to place some of their live duck decoys in the fountain. So apparently 3 small English call ducks were put in there as just guinea pigs, and people just lost their mind. It just became famous. They're like, okay, well, we just got to do this. And apparently around 1940s, an animal trainer who was apparently with a circus or something came up with delivering these ducks. Wow. And then it just kind of stuck ever since. But it's one of the most quirky things in the world. You're sitting in this, again, you imagine, 1800s,
right?
Fabulous decorated hotel, just to watch these ducks waddle across red carpet and climb into, and watch all these people line up.
That's pretty crazy.
It is.
Watch the duck walk.
The hotel is fantastic, though. It's a great room. It's very iconic, kind of southern charm as far as the hotel goes, and a great location. But again, one of those kind of unique places to stay.
Cool. Once again, you bringing up something made me think of something that I didn't have on my list, because I wasn't thinking of American hotels and resorts and so forth. So I wasn't really thinking U.S. And this is actually in our home state, and that's the Greenbrier Resort.
Yep.
I've had the pleasure, because of different conferences and boards I serve on, to have gone there probably close to a dozen times now. But the Greenbrier Resort is just this huge monstrosity. It's been around since the 1800s. It originally, and I'm not sure why, back in the 1800s, people from the D.C. area would travel, which I would imagine would have taken most of a day then. Now it's a 4-hour drive maybe from D.C. out there to go to this place, but they have warm sulfur springs, and so forth. But anyhow, this resort grew up from there. Eventually it was bought by the railroad. We're talking about southern-east West Virginia, southeastern West Virginia. And in the 50s, at the height of the Cold War, they actually built a replica and a bunker to store all the members of Congress. Because in case of a nuclear fallout, all the members of Congress and the president would go there so that the government would stay running. It's not a secret anymore, and I don't think it was a great secret. Even I remember in the 70s hearing about it. But it was supposedly kept secret up through the 90s or somewhere when they finally declassified it. And you can still do bunker tours there. But this resort's got everything. It's got obviously a great spa for massages and so forth, indoor, outdoor pools, clay shooting, off-road Jeep rides and the Vipers. It's got a movie theater in there. It's got a PGA class golf course plus 2 other courses there. It's a beautiful setting with a beautiful creek. It's in the middle of the mountains. It's just an incredible place. So the main hotel's got over 700 rooms. You go in there. It's decorated. It's kind of wild decorations. This Dorothy.
It's old classic, right?
It's old classic. It's from the 30s and 40s. This famous decorator, Dorothy. I'm going to say Lamore, but I know that's not right. So excuse me on that. But I know it's Dorothy. And they still keep that style today. And they follow a lot of Southern traditions. But then out through the resort, they have cottages and cabins and so forth you can rent, which are also very nice and get maid service and so forth. So if you're ever in southern West Virginia or looking for a place to go, it's called America's Resort. It's the Greenbrier, and it's a great experience. And they also have a casino, by the way. I left that out. I'm not a gambler, but they do have a casino built into it as well.
So they still have a PGA Tour event, right?
Yeah, they still have a PGA Tour event. Exactly. So anyhow, I guess we're sort of going back and forth. We don't have to.
Okay.
But if Tony, you got something next? If not, I'll throw something.
I got another. I don't want to mention the particular Airbnb. Honestly, I'm just being a little selfish. Just a great location, and this is one of those situations where I would say it's more about the location than it is the place, but. I mean, we could do a whole thing just on Paris for me, places to stay and just cool locations. But I know I've mentioned this in a previous episode. The place we stayed at for the first time I went to the Grape Harvest Festival, and it's up in Montmartre, north side of Paris. And 2 iconic things, obviously, in Paris is the Basilica up there in Montmartre, and of course the Eiffel Tower. Mm-hmm. And God bless Terry, he found this place. He had stayed at it a previous time, but it sits on the little hillside, and out our, I guess you would call it our front window. Well, first of all, it's in a great location. I mean, you're about 3 blocks away from, catching the steps to go up to the Basilica, and at the time it wasn't working, but we're only about 2 blocks away from the metro, or 1 block away from the metro, I guess there. It's just a great location, but the views. I mean, again, the only hillside there in Paris, and then out our kitchen window, and it was perfectly framed. I mean, if you can imagine like a casement window that you can open up, and it just wide open, and there you saw the Eiffel Tower, and it just was like this perfect thing that you could see anywhere in the kitchen. And then you go to the back bedroom and the living room where we had these windows that opened up, kind of like window doors, and it's kind of quirky because we're on the top floor. Onto this little balcony that was big enough, if you can imagine, a little metal cafe table and 2 cafe chairs and maybe a plant, and that's all it could fit. But now you're looking straight at the mountain or the hilltop and seeing the Basilica.
Right.
And I mean, it's just kind of those things that if you look at all the other buildings across there, they could have view of one or the other, but the way they were sitting, you didn't necessarily have both views. It was just a great way to spend 4 days, kind of waking up, going to the kitchen and seeing the Eiffel Tower, and then when you go to bed, it's there. And it was just one of those things. And even funnier was when we landed that one night, going back to our alma mater at Shepherd, they were playing on a Thursday night game, and we were there on a Thursday night. Of course, for us, it was about 2:00 in the morning when they played. I was literally watching it on the TV at 2:00 in the morning, or watching it on our computer with the Basilica in the background.
That's pretty cool.
And it was just kind of, I don't know, it's one of those things when I took a picture of it, I was like, that's just kind of quite crazy.
I think that's what's neat when you travel. You have these iconic, whether they're statues, whether they're buildings, whatever, Sacré-Cœur, Eiffel Tower, and you kind of take them for granted. You've seen so many pictures of them, you've seen so much, but when you're actually in the city and you happen to get an apartment with that kind of location, with those kind of views, and you're seeing it, it just kind of mesmerizes you, and it's got a sort of an aura of its own.
It is.
And it's just a great feeling. I mean, I've seen that in different places, and it's like, am I really here? I need to pinch myself.
It's one of those things that I think we all take for granted when you live someplace. Like, I'm sure whoever lived in that apartment or lives in that apartment on a daily basis doesn't pay any attention to it. But, when you travel abroad, and that's, two of the iconic things that you see in Paris, and to kind of just look at them every day, every time you go to the kitchen, every time you're sitting in your living room, it's kind of your backdrop. That was like, I don't know if it was my favorite place to say, but it's just one of those unique experiences places to say.
Right. Wow. Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, that's cool. That's really cool. I will add to that a little bit. The only time I stayed up on Montmartre, we were on the backside of Sacré-Cœur. And it was, the Airbnb was nice, nothing wrong with it. There were 3 couples in there, but we had to walk straight up the steps to get to anything. So if you're booking in that area, stay around on the other side, which I could tell you whether that was east or west.
It's the south side.
The south side, because it's a lot easier to get to everything.
Yeah.
So just an FYI there. All right, well, I'm going to go next, and I'm going to jump into Northern Africa. And actually got 2 different things, and both Tony and I have been to both of these, so hopefully we can expand and banter a little bit about both of them. First is we stayed in a riad, which I guess was an Airbnb.
It is, yeah.
It was an Airbnb in Marrakesh. And we had seen these great pictures that Terry had booked it and seen online and said, man, this is great. It's got a little wading pool, I guess, in the middle of it. So, I mean, you're seeing all these incredible pictures. So we're pretty excited about getting here, and it's like 7 bedrooms or something. And we had a lot of people, so it was important to have a lot of bedrooms. And it's like 4 floors, etc. So when we first get to Marrakesh, which was a little bit of a cluster between the cab ride and camels on the street, and then the road just ends, and street lines in the road don't really mean anything. They're just sort of a suggestion, so the cabbie's all over the place. And then when we get to where we think we're at, we then meet a guy who walks us through this labyrinth of walkways that seem to be getting worse and worse as there's broken bricks and the smell of cat urine and homeless people laying in the thing. I mean, we just really felt like, oh my God, what are we doing here? So then after going through a few of these different turns in this maze of a walkway, we get to this huge door that still seemed like it had a gate or some kind of lock or something on it. But then when they finally opened that, and then this big door opened up, and we walked in, it was like we were in a little oasis.
Yeah, it's a palace. Right?
I mean, it was an incredible home that we were able to share. So to give you an idea, it was square, but the middle of it was totally open air. So the pool was in that area, totally went up to the sky, and then on the edges you had 3 floors, and then a rooftop. So around the edges, you had rooms, bedrooms, the kitchen area, the dining area. So it was just, you kind of walked around the outside, and all the way around, you could look down into the court.
It was all balconies.
All balconies. You could look into the court. So, and it was done up, and I'm not going to say the material right. It sort of reminds you of rock that's been plastered over, but it was all solid. So it was like a mud that put over and became hard, but it was a consistent all the way through the showers, the bathrooms, which was really neat. It was kind of cool, and obviously it's doing to take advantage of the heat. Obviously the materials they have there would try to make the whole building cooler and so forth. So, but they modernized it. We had a guy.
Yeah.
We had a guy that arranged different things, and they had a cook come in and cook us, and they put out some breakfast, but they'd cook us dinners also.
Yeah, they give us a choice. And I think we figured we were going to be out and about a few times, so we picked like 3 days that we would do.
Right, exactly. So a local Moroccan Marrakesh lady would come in and fix this traditional Moroccan food, which was pretty incredible. So when you got all the way to the top, now this was in July and during Ramadan, so it's hot. But when you get to the top, you had a couple things. You had a couple conflicting things. You had a great view, depending on where you looked. So when the sun was going down, you had a great view of the sun setting. To one side, you had another very nice, I guess, riad or whatever that had a beautiful deck on top and all this. And then you could look at another side and you could see it's not a steeple, but for a mosque, you would see the mosque Marriott, and you could see, and they were playing the call to prayer on a regular basis. And then the other side, you had something out of a Jason Bourne movie where you had broken glass across the top of the wall and barbed wire, and you look over and you see, I guess they weren't homeless, but you had people with just single mattresses on the rooftop. And
just hanging out.
Kind of a mess.
Yeah.
So it was certainly a unique experience, but an incredible place and a great place to have stayed there for 5 or 6 days. We were there for a decent while.
Yeah, we were there a week.
Yeah, so no, that was a unique experience. And then to add to the Moroccan experience, as we've said in other podcasts, we took a much longer than we thought tour out through the Atlas Mountains into the sub-Saharan desert. It was the Zagora Desert, I believe, but it's part of the Sahara. And we rode camels out and stayed with the Berber tribe.
Yeah.
And that was a unique experience. Obviously, this is not a hotel. This is not an Airbnb. You are out in the middle of the desert, but they had a campsite. I mean, they were tents. They were nice tents with wooden floors.
Very elaborate tents.
Very elaborate, but the heat inside these tents was immense.
It was the desert, right?
It was the desert. When we went by, there was a little digital clock along the road, and it was 120 degrees at 6 p.m. at night. It got down to a very cool 90 degrees at night. These dark green, probably wool or canvas tents held the heat well.
I think they were all made out of like the Berber carpet.
Was the Berber material? Okay.
Yeah, all of the fabrics and everything. They were very elaborate.
But they were the tents were set up nicely. They had two single cots in each and little stand. But it was I know a couple of the guys stayed in there.
We did.
But I didn't. In the center of the tent sort of surrounded the courtyard, and they had carpets out with big pillows and a campfire and all that. And I stayed out there just because there was some airflow. But
that was like one of the most unique sleeping experiences to ever have. To sleep on a Berber carpet with a Berber tribe in the middle of the desert and looking up at the stars. That was pretty darn cool.
Yeah. Oh, and the stars was probably what made it the most because you had no light pollution, so it was a pure sky, and it was an incredible experience to lay there on the desert looking up at just a pure sky with all the stars. And it was incredible, absolutely incredible. So those were a couple of our North African experiences, and definitely unique and very. Glad we did that. Those were good experiences.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll jump in. So we always like to throw in a little unique dining experience or food experience. So since we just talked about that trip, I was actually going to mention the dining experience on that exact camel ride. You know, I don't know how many people have had Moroccan food. I mean, it's depending on where you live, whether or not you have access to it. But I mean, it's very, very, very rich, very, very, very powerful flavors. And you know, one of the things that they use to cook is called a tangine. I mean, it kind of looks like a decanter if you're familiar with wine, or kind of a genie bottle. I don't know how really to describe it, but it's typically made of ceramic base, and it has like a little top to it, and everything's kind of cooked inside of it. It's like this consistent, like cast iron type of heat, and that's how they cook a lot of things. And it was like a slow cook. And when we did our camel ride into the desert, I mean, part of the thing they said is like, hey, these guys are going to make food for you. We're like, okay. How do they make food in the middle of the desert? Well, you get fire and you have one of these tangine pots. They did just a spectacular. We had several meals, obviously over a week time, done through a tangine.
Yep.
that was just really, really, really good. I don't know if it was the fact of the environment and then being out there in the open air and again being in the middle of the desert, but they did a great job with that meal. I mean, these guys just rocked everything. It was just the most flavorful meal.
It was very good. You're sitting there watching them cook it up, and these guys are, I mean, it's probably their everyday dress. We say traditional garb, right, but it's probably what they wear all the time. And you could tell they enjoyed doing it. They knew what they were doing. They served it to us, and afterwards they got a few little, I call them bongos. I'm sure it's called something else.
They have various instruments and played music with them.
Played music with them. After they served us, we had a little after dinner drink or shot of some sort. I'm not sure what that was. It was a very good evening. It was just nice.
That was just, so again, a very, very unique dining experience.
Yes, absolutely. So that was our food experience for today's podcast.
Yes, exactly.
We didn't introduce that, but we segued into it very nicely. So, all right. Well, that was North Africa. Where do you want to head to now? Where was what do you got next on your?
I'm going to come back to the States.
Okay.
So, and I'm going to say it's honestly the only two places I've stayed in Key West, but both of them I really, really liked, and I think I'm bringing it back to, I think staying in that general area in Key West is what I really want to emphasize.
Right.
Well, we stayed together in both places. The first one was, I think it's La Concha. It's a major resort right there on the street, and it was fun. It was awesome, great hotel, right? But it's a big hotel. And then this last time, though, we stayed at Marrera's guest mansion. So it literally was an old mansion that's been restored. Again, no rooms are the same, and I know you guys ended up with this very small room at one time. And ours wasn't very big either. It was funny. We found out after the fact that it was apparently extremely haunted.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know it either.
That's the first time I've heard that, maybe.
Yeah. Well, Shelley always into this because, our house is 1766. It's old as dirt. And she swears, when we were down there, she was like, I heard somebody. I was like, man, it's probably the person next door. These walls are thin. Well, there was nobody next door, we found out after we checked it out.
How about that?
So I don't know. Maybe it was coconuts falling, or I don't know what it is. But then we found out later that it's literally one of the most haunted mansions in that entire area.
Oh, wow. Why?
I don't remember the exact story. I'm sure she could share that with you, but and she enjoys that kind of,
That's cool.
info. But what I loved about it was just the quaintness of it. And it's one of the reasons I think we kind of like some of the Airbnbs or the boutique hotel experiences, which this is definitely a boutique hotel, is you don't have to worry about, honestly, going down 45 flights in an elevator and it takes 15 minutes to get to the street. Right? You want to run back to your room, it's like running back to your house.
Yep.
And you still have that big, huge environment. And remember the hotel bar in the back by the pool? It was self-serve. You just signed a little list and checked out
pretty
your
incredible.
thing.
Yeah, it's an honor system.
Cool little pool. Now they were doing renovations on it, so it was closed a couple other days, but it is right smack in the heart.
It's right off the ball.
Yeah.
We were there too, and our room was smaller, but you know what? In hindsight, it was smaller in the sense that you could barely fit around the bed.
Yeah.
And the bathroom was almost as big as the regular room. So the bathroom was nice, but we also had a door right to the back porch, which the porch led right down to the pool.
That's awesome.
And the pool was, like Tony just said, was very good. Yes, it was under some renovation, but we did get swimming at some, and it was a self-serve honor bar. So it was a very cool place to be. Plus, it's only a block off. You could go two ways. You could go to Duval, which is where everything's happening, but you only go the other way a half block, and you're at mile 0.
Yeah, that's right. It's right there.
So, I mean, it is the start of the highway system. So it was really cool and a good place to be.
Yeah, I mean, I have to admit, it was when we were looking at possibly going again this year, we looked at it because it was. I really liked it. I mean, I like the location of it. You're, like you said, where you are on Duval Street. You're kind of right at that edge where if you go kind of west is true party central, then if you go east you're more in the kind of, I mean, Duval's crazy no matter what, but the west side is obviously a lot more crazy than the east side. But this is a great location, and I would say just from a unique experience to stay at a place like that it just gives you a great feel for the neighborhood.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. It's fantastic. And obviously, Key West is a fun place to be anyhow. So
Yes,
it's hard to go wrong there. I'm going to move into, and really, I'm kind of meandering because there's so many cool little places we've been to. But I'm going to go to Prague, and this place is unique. It was an Airbnb,
Mm-hmm.
and it was redone. We were on the third floor, so you had to walk up steps. So that, I guess that was a negative. But there was a bar, restaurant underneath, and then one right across the street, which is actually where Tony and Shelley stayed, or above it, or near it, right by it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're 2 or 3 blocks from the main city center of Prague. So it was a great location. But what made this really unique was this is where Mozart stayed, and a little bit of time he spent in Prague when he was, I forget which symphony he was doing, performing at the time, but he actually stayed at this apartment. So it's got a little bit of a history and relevance to it. It was a nice little place. It had a little loft in it, so there was 3 or 4 of us that stayed there, and you had your main floor with a couple bedrooms and a little loft. So it was nicely done, but just the fact that that's where Mozart stayed made it pretty cool. And Prague was a good place to be too. So the city you're in, if it's really cool, it makes things neat also.
And just from a historic perspective, it was Symphony 38 by Mozart.
Perfect. Because the concert, I know it's not called the concert hall, but for lack of a better word, it was literally just two or 3 blocks straight down the street from there. So it was convenient for him, and either way, it was cool that we got to stay there. So that was a neat little thing that we stayed at, which was an Airbnb in Prague.
Prague was pretty awesome.
Yeah,
good. That was a good little area too.
It was. That was. I liked the area.
Yeah, I mean, you were just far enough that you were like the little
out
pubs.
of the crowd a little bit.
Cheap.
Yes.
You know, you weren't in the high touristy price, but you were only 5 minute walk.
5 minute walk.
And you were right smack into everything, so it was
absolutely. So no, it was definitely cool.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go to next? Do you got something on your list, or I've got a couple?
Yeah, so I would say, again, another place that I'm not going to specifically mention the Airbnb, but again, the location from an experience standpoint. So I've mentioned, Dubrovnik in Croatia several times on other podcasts, and I'm absolutely going to get back there in the next 2 years. I'm just making a commitment now. So you guys can call me out on it when I don't go.
Okay.
We were there also for an entire week, and all spent in a 1500s house inside the old town, the old city center, inside the old walls. And that's where I would say, just again from an experience, you should stay. Now, whether you spend your whole time there, that can be debated because there's some spectacular things going outside the old city, but you really get a feel for it. It's very similar. Again, it's across the sea from Venice. I mean, it's south from Venice, but you're on the Adriatic, which is just a beautiful coastline. And it's very similar to Venice in that it used to be all canals that has now been filled in these wonderful stone streets. And, I think Eric mentioned one time talking about at night, they keep it pristine. They literally come in there, they use recycled water from the sea, but they hose it down almost like with fire hoses to clean the streets.
Right.
I mean, it's just a gorgeous place, but it's also, again, similar to Venice in that it's a huge place for boats, ships,
right,
cruises. Knowing that in the middle of summer, you're going to get 3 cruise ships a day. But here's the thing. If you're cruise ship people, I apologize for calling you sheep, but most of them are sheep.
Right.
They only have 2 to 4 hours. Yes. You got to hit what you got to hit.
Right.
So in downtown Old City, Dubrovnik, there's a main strata. It's literally what's called the strata, the main street. It's very wide, and it is tourist central. And 2 blocks off of that is tourist central. But it goes blocks and blocks.
Right.
And then once you get past that, most of the people off of the ships do not venture that far. Sure. It's just not convenient. They're not going to have time for it. So that's what we found, and where we stayed was literally at the 2 blocks. So we were right at the edge of it. You could almost witness it. You could just see, if you looked out our window and looked right, you could see the masses of people. You looked out and looked left,
not so much.
Few people.
Right.
But it was just a cool, quirky, old building. I mean, meandering, no step was level. No step was square, and it was 4 stories. I think we were on the 3rd floor. The windows were really cool. They had the traditional old shutters that close from outside, but they also had the shutters from the inside. So it could be loud as you can imagine with the windows open. If you close both sets of shutters, it's completely quiet, which was amazing. It had a washer and dryer, had a little kitchen. It was a 2-bedroom place, and it was extremely affordable. And again, because you're 2 blocks off, and I don't know, it was just one of those experiences that, again, because of where we were located, I think we were the only Airbnb apartment in that entire building. Everybody else was locals. We ran into so many people. And again, we communicate with a lot of people that's still from that area, and it's just kind of fun. But it was just a unique experience to stay in a building that's 600 years old.
No, it is. I mean, that's just some of it's the age of it. It's just it just, especially being Americans, where 200 years old is old to us.
Yeah, it's ancient.
It's pretty incredible. So that's really cool. I'm gonna, based on the age, and not quite that old, but I'm gonna jump to one that was a good experience. It was a unique experience, and then also a warning I want to give to our listeners. And this is in Amsterdam. We got a really nice townhouse, and if anybody's from Arlington, Virginia, the old colonial townhouse, very from the outside, very stately, very, very well polished and so forth. Mm-hmm. And these go back to the 1600s, so it's not 600 years old, but we got 300 or 400 years going on here. So we get in there, and then Tony was talking about steps not being totally square and all that. So we were up on the 3rd floor, and the initial from the ground floor to the 1st floor had to be 2 stories straight of just straight steps, and the width of the stairway kept getting more narrow as you went up. So when you're carrying your wife's big suitcase up there, and you're kind of a wide person to begin with, I started having to turn sideways. And then the steps weren't always the same 8 inches. You get a 9-inch or a 7-inch and try to trip you up. But either way, that was part of the uniqueness and quaintness of the place. So we get up there, we get to our place, and it was a great inside. It had a loft and then another loft. So we went in the door, and we had to climb up a set of steps to get to the main floor. And then the bedroom was up on another loft. So we're up 4 or 5 stories now. All stairs, so I guess that's a negative, but it was quaint in a way. So it was a cool place. The location was excellent. We were right there in the middle of stuff, canals around us, not far from the red light district, which is not why we stayed there, but there's still a lot of restaurants and bars and so forth there. The negative, and something I want to warn you all about, is I read all this stuff and I fell in love with it and booked it, but I didn't read the fine print enough to see where it said separate bathrooms or shared bathrooms. So to go to the bathroom, we had to go back down those steps from the loft out into the main hallway, and then down 3 or 4 steps across and up 4 more steps to a bathroom. So when you're booking these Airbnbs and so forth, check the thing where it says whether it's private bathroom or shared bathroom. Right. Now, if you don't mind, nobody else minds, but if you're expecting a private bath, that could be something that maybe your wife or girlfriend or you would prefer to know ahead of time. So just an FYI out there.
Yeah.
All right. So do you want to go to Spain or you want to go to Greece now?
Spain.
All right. I've got, and Tony might have more, a couple different cities and different hotels within Spain. I'm going to start with Barcelona. The first time we went to Barcelona was part of a big trip that we ended up in Marrakesh and ran with the Bulls and started in Madrid. And we stayed at a little hotel that originally my memory had it as Sexto, but it's actually Hotel Nexto, Nexto. So I'm not sure what I had on my mind. But
this treats about that.
This was a cool little hotel. We're in the big shopping district of Barcelona. And so there's a lot of stuff around there. The metro's there. It's easy to get to the Gothic area. It's easy to get to San Familia. Did I say that right?
Very close to San Familia.
But in the back, and a couple of our guys were up on the top floor and had a balcony. And out the back was one of Gaudi's buildings.
Yeah.
Which I forget the name of it. Do you have the name of that building? But either way, it's a beautiful building. And at night, they had people out there playing like a orchestra type instruments, violin and.
We had jazz, yeah.
They had jazz.
I mean, it's technically the Gaudi Museum, but it's the Sagrada Familia.
Mm.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
So.
Gaudi's house.
The hotel itself, at least the room I had, was very nice. It was also very European in that it was very small. But it was very nice, great accommodations, very modern. But the location was just incredible.
Yeah, that's kind of right where La Ramblas begins.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, which is the whole shopping pathway that leads all the way down to the Gothic.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't technically right on Las Ramblas, but it's very close.
Yeah.
And like I said, you have the Gaudi Museum right out its back door and right around the corner if you want to go to the museum itself. But everything you needed was right there, and the subway or the metro was just a block or two down. So great location, made for a great experience. There was a dentist close by, which was good because my wife managed to crack a tooth in Pamplona and had to get a root canal. So that was just a block or two away from the hotel. And unlike American dentists, we were able to go in, get out, get it done, and for like less than $400. So. That didn't have anything to do with hotels, but it was close to there, and it popped into my head. Did you have anything else in Barcelona?
No, it was a really, really cool hotel.
Yeah.
I would think very two distinct locations between there and staying down in the Gothic Quarter, but
yes.
That is it's a very cool experience up there.
It was. And even though we're not talking about restaurants, it was also very close to maybe one of my favorite and Tony's favorite restaurants experiences with a restaurant called Kilo. So we won't go into that because we've done it on other podcasts, but that also helped the fact that it was within walking distance of that restaurant.
We didn't know that when we
obviously booked it. That was a big bonus. Let's pop over to the other side of Spain to Madrid, where this is maybe one of the only places that I've booked and stayed in twice. We stayed in Madrid a couple times as we were heading to Pamplona, in fact, in back-to-back summers, back-to-back years. Yeah. And we booked the exact same Airbnb. It was a great little one. It was a great location. It was right off Plaza del Sol, which a lot of stuff happens there. You got the metro, you got lots of restaurants, shops, so forth. And then within a few block walk, you're in Plaza Mayor, which all the same things I just said. You got a lot of shops and all that. And it's one of the main historical things, which then Botines is off that, which is the oldest restaurant in the world. So fantastic location. It was actually for an apartment. Usually they're just single-story flats. This was a 2-story apartment. So, you take the elevator up, and anytime you take an elevator, you assume the room you're going into is just going to be 1 story, but it actually has steps going downstairs. So, and it was, 3 or 4 bedrooms?
Yeah, it's 4, right?
I think so. There's definitely two
I know
down.
It's 3.
Yeah, 2 down.
3 bedrooms in the living room, right?
Yeah, 2 in the basement. Are there 2 upstairs or 1? There's 2 upstairs.
Yeah, maybe 4.
4 bedrooms, up and down. And then you had 2 living rooms. The living room in the basement, living room upstairs. So you had couches, a kitchen. It was really accommodating. The first time there was only 3 of us, so it was way more place than we needed. The next time there was like 6 of us, and it still was a good fit because you had showers downstairs and showers upstairs. So fantastic place. That's the nice thing about these Airbnbs or Verbos or the different types of things. You can kind of find the size you need in the location you need, and it usually works out pretty good. So it's a great way to go. Okay. Did you have anything else in Madrid or Spain?
No, I think, again, from an experience standpoint, I think if you're just, depending on if you've been there multiple times, then you can venture into different locations of the city. But if you're going to do Madrid and try to see the things you want to see, you need to be in or near Plaza del Sol or Plaza Mayor, for sure. And I spent, other than that, we've spent it a couple times in hotels, but also around Plaza del Sol. And then Terry and I spent one night coming back from Pamplona last time down near Plaza Mayor, right there on our little corner where we love those mojitos. So
right. Oh yeah, that's a great place.
That was a pretty cool location there, and it was a great little spot. So, but both of those places you're only 5-minute walk from each other. So
right,
great spots.
No, absolutely.
Great spots.
I'm going to come back to it because there's a whole different segment. There's another couple in Spain. It's a different type of segment of staying that doesn't necessarily mean it's a good place to stay, but it's a good location based on the situation. So, anyhow, so I think we'll hop over to Greece. We were just there in May. We stayed at two places on the islands that were actually, I thought, some of the best hotels I've ever stayed in. First was Mykonos, and that was called Rockabella Mykonos. And then when we went to Santorini, it was Astro Palace.
Yeah.
Thoughts on those?
I would say Astro Palace was just a great hotel. I mean, it was just a great hotel. But as far as views and just overall everything, I thought Rockabella and Mykonos surpassed it.
Yes, definitely from the view standpoint.
I mean, just kind of everything about it for me. From when we kind of got there, checked in, hanging out on these, whatever you're going to call them, giant beanbag chairs by the pool, waiting to check in, them making us cocktails, them refusing to let us even touch our bags to get them out of the van. The rooms, I mean, private little hot tubs on it, which we did have also at the other place.
Yeah, we didn't have the hot tub. You all had the hot tub. We didn't have that.
Sorry. But, the fabulous platform bed that had the giant windows that looked over the sea, it was just one of those things. And I thought just everything about it, the pool, the infinity pool edge, looking out over the water, and again, the platform cabanas that jutted out into the pool where you could eat and have drinks, and just spectacular.
Both were spectacular. I agree with you. The Mykonos Rockabella, the views were unparalleled. I mean, the infinity pool truly went right out to the Aegean Sea.
Yeah.
I mean, it was incredible while you're sitting there, and it was probably one of the nicest pools I've ever seen. Like you said, the cabanas, and then you got the bar off to the one side, and people waiting on you, bringing towels and whatever you wanted. So the service was incredible. The rooms were very nice. It was also that stone with the plaster that was real neat, but it made it cool. The beds were real nice. We didn't have the individual jacuzzi or hot tub, but we had a very incredible shower for like about 10 different ways that it sprayed water on you. It was incredible, without a doubt. And they shuttled us into town and back out of town.
Yeah,
so that was so the Rockabella Mykonos is fantastic. The Santorini, the Astro Palace, the views weren't quite as good. It's sort of in an area that's just starting to be built up. You could look way off in the distance and see down to the sea. It was sort of at the base of the hill going up to the main part of the activity and the Fiera part. But what I liked about it, one, you had a great pool. It had a nice spa, or I assume it had a nice spa. I didn't actually get a massage, so I shouldn't say that, but it looked like a nice spa. But the room itself just sort of extended itself. It was like one of the biggest rooms or most spatial laid out rooms. So it was a long room. You had a ton of space, which usually, especially in Europe, I mean, you're barely moving around the bed, and then the bathroom's right on you. This thing kind of stretched out. You had a big 4-post bed with a canopy on it. And then as you stretch past the bathroom to the bed and then to your little living room area, and then you had an open door and you had a little porch, or at least we did have a little porch where you had a table and chairs that you could sit on, and then it stretched out to your own individual pool.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you went on for a good 50 yards or so. That to have that for an individual hotel room was just an incredible amount of space. And then it had a little cabana shaded area with a chair you could sit in the shade. So, from a space standpoint, it was one of the biggest hotel rooms I've ever stayed in, considering the pool was part of yours too, and that was outdoors. And then you had the normal pool for the whole hotel. So, Astro Palace, Rockabella Mykonos in Spain. If you're in those aisles, we highly recommend you go check those out.
Absolutely.
I'm going to get to some places we've stayed during festivals that maybe aren't the best actual places to stay, but location was important in these, and that had a more deciding factor. But do you have any actual nice places that you want to talk about before we go to those?
No. I mean, I think the only other ones that we, we're kind of getting towards the end here. The only other place I think we were going to talk about was Pamplona, which, we've talked about several times, but not really purely from an accommodation standpoint. So you could go ahead and start with what I
what I was thinking is we've gone to some of the bigger festivals in the world, Pamplona being one of them, Run with the Bulls, Oktoberfest, Dublin during St. Paddy's Day. And when you're booking those hotels, because those places book up early and fast and all, so you got to book early, but two, it's more location at that point. Because if you get too far out, fighting those crowds to get in it's just really a hassle. And you're just trying to get to the event and get through it. But if you got to walk, half a mile or 3/4 mile or a mile or two to get there, it really takes some of the fun out of it. So in Pamplona, I mean, we've been there numerous times and we've stayed at different places. And my initial intent wasn't to talk about a hostel, but the first time we booked there, we actually did stay at a hostel, which actually I'm glad we are talking about it. It was only a couple blocks from the main plaza, Plaza Castilla, and not far from where the run starts. There, it was very cheap, so the cost was good. Obviously, it's shared accommodation, shared bathrooms. It's dorm-like. Me, my wife, and another couple, and then another couple who we didn't know shared 3 bunk beds, and then the guys shared like 6 bunk beds.
Yes, we did.
You didn't want to walk by that room. But anyhow, I mean, so these kind of accommodations during festivals, you take a different look at the way you want to stay. It's more about location. The other couple times we stayed in Pamplona, one time I took my daughter and another guy and his son, and we booked kind of late, so we got a hotel that was probably more like 6-7 blocks away. So it was a little bit of a walk. It was decent. Actually, probably one of the nicer places we stayed in Pamplona, come to think of it. But the last 2 times we stayed, and I think Tony booked them, were Airbnbs, but they were right in the heart of San Fermin, the festival. So much so that these individual bands that go around are playing their drum line at 2, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, right outside our window.
Literally.
And these are old, I mean, they are truly somebody's apartment, and they're right in the middle of it, and this is an older town, so they're probably 200-300 years old. Everything's out of square, and you walk down the hallway, you think it's because you're drunk, but no, it's just that the floor's tilted.
They do. See, I felt right at home. My whole house was off kilter, so
So, but that's the difference. So they're still good places. They are ideal for the location and what you want to do. But your expectation of the quality of the inside of the actual living space or accommodation is different because of the situation.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about, our last 2, the hostel was totally different. It definitely fit the purpose for what we were going, because we had no anticipation of running more than one day, for the runs, and you were far enough out that you were away from some of the craziness. But the last 2 years, we've been 2 blocks at best off of the actual course run, and right smack in the heart of the grounds, and the places were great.
Yes.
The first time it was just the 3 of us, so the apartment we got was more conducive to 3 of us, and then this last year we got lucky enough because we had 6 or 7 of us. 6 or 7 of us, yeah. It was a lot of people. Managed to find one of the apartments that traditionally on Airbnb rents out by the room. So like you were mentioning before, like shared accommodations. Right. That's typically how they would do, because let's be honest, most people who go to festival, they're kind of single, they're kind of there for a couple of reasons, and boom, they just need a room. They don't care about anything else. Exactly. We were lucky enough that I talked to the guy and I was able to convince him to rent us the whole place instead of just buy the room, so it worked out good. But that's purely a thing that you do for the location. Even though the rooms were not bad, it just wasn't bad. It's just, wow, you got to be in the right frame of mind, right? It's kind of like staying on Bourbon Street for anybody who's in the United States.
Absolutely, because
this festival, Bourbon Street during Mardi Gras.
It is truly 24/7. These bands, I just remember it's on wheels, but they have this big drum that they're beating. It's like a gong, but it's a drum. And it's like 6 or 7, 8 feet tall, and they're banging the hell of it and marching down the street right in front of our window at like 4 a.m. So, I mean, Pamplona, and a lot of these festivals are different that way. We also went to Oktoberfest. Now, there we booked a hotel, booked it well in advance. The hotel was fine. It was nothing great. It was nothing bad. It was good. But it was within 3 or 4 blocks of where the
it's
the
about
festival.
As close as you can get.
Yeah, it's about as close as you can get. So it's a trade-off. You're looking for convenience as much as you're looking for a great place to stay.
Yeah.
Same thing in Dublin. We for St. Paddy's Day, I'm talking about my wife and I. We found a little. It was a hotel, and it was literally in the Temple Bar area and overlooked the bar we ended up staying at most of the time during St. Paddy's Day, and got lucky there. But once again, the hotel itself was nothing special.
Yeah.
But it's about location for those types of things. So festivals and big events like that, you're booking for accommodations a little different mindset than when you're in Greece and want some luxury and some of these other places. So,
exactly.
Well, I don't have any others. Do you have any others you want to go?
No, that's kind of all I really wanted to hit. Talk about this experiences. Maybe in one of our blogs we'll roll together and put some top, like we did with some of our drinking experiences, or places to have a cocktail.
Absolutely.
Maybe we'll put together a list of our favorite places to stay in some of the major cities, and put that out there in our blog for everybody to check it out.
And we'll make an ongoing conversation as we get other friends who weren't here tonight. They can share theirs. As our listeners get out there and say, hey, what about this place? Or we went here and it was great. Feel free to join in and join the conversation on our website. So,
absolutely.
Speaking of the website, please go there, sign up for all our travel tips and advice and itineraries and all the things we can get you at www.friendsthatcarryon.com. You can still follow us on Instagram and Facebook at friendsthatcarryon.com.
Speaking of the website, too, if you go up and sign up now, put in your email address, you'll actually get that inside content of the list. Well, we have like 18 places. So one of our blog, or one of our podcast episodes was some of our top drinking experiences, and we put together in Europe. So we put together. You did an 18.
The podcast was in general, but the blog takes those and then narrows it down to Europe, and we've got about 18 different experiences in 8 countries in Europe that we had some really good drinking experiences.
So if you sign up,
you'll get that sent to you right away.
Which also gives you, if you're getting ready to travel someplace and you're looking for some suggestions, if we don't have it listed, feel free to email us and we'll give you some suggestions.
We'll give some suggestions, try to help you out.
Absolutely. So I guess that pretty much wraps up. So also for those who sign up that are entitled to the bonus content, we're going to today talk about. Jim and I are also getting ready to head to Bangkok, Thailand, Siem Reap, Cambodia, and Hanoi, Vietnam here in about 3 weeks. So
excited.
Our first time, so we're going to just throw together a little bit about 10-minute bonus coverage on what the hell, how did we come up with this little plan and things you just kind of need to know before you jump on a plane heading over to Southeast Asia. So
members of our website get all the bonus coverage on top of the podcast sent to them automatically. So sign up and get some more great information.
Yeah, absolutely. So awesome.
All right. So we'll see you next time.
Yep.
Friends that Carry On.
Ciao.
Be sure to join the friends next week with another great podcast. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. You can also find the friends and other content on www.friendsthatcarryon.com. Or check us out on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook by searching Friends That Carry On. Thanks again for joining us. And don't forget to carry on, friends.